Good morning, everybody. This is Rich Church Keen at RichC_K on Twitter with the first ever Rugbyunited podcast. Everyone's doing podcasts these days, so I thought I'd jump right on that bandwagon and we'd have a go ourselves. First of all, you'll have to excuse me, I've got a very cheap microphone, which the sound quality isn't good anyway. I've also got a stinking cold, so for the pilot episode at least, the sound won't be very good. If this episode's picked up and people like it and people are actually listening and giving me feedback, I will be doing more. If after 2 or 3 we're getting a significant increase in people listening, I'll go out and I will buy a decent microphone. The sound quality will improve. Unfortunately, the quality of my opinions won't. Everything in this podcast is my own opinion. If I offend anybody, I don't really care. It's all about rugby. It's all about having an opinion. I try not to be too controversial. I'll try not to swear. I want to keep this so you can listen where your kids are in the room. So with that in mind, I will be trying not to swear. The occasional minor swear word might slip through my lips, but I have to mention Bath at some point. See, that was my first attempt at a joke, and I've just realised how bad it was. Right, anyway, on to business. Six Nations last weekend was rather good. Actually, it wasn't. The quality of the games wasn't the highest. We had England losing to Ireland. Ireland were very well drilled. It was a good game plan. I wouldn't say they looked like a world-beating team. They certainly were good enough to beat England. The positives for Ireland is there's so many players in there that you wouldn't have had as a starter at the beginning of the Six Nations. Geordie Murphy came on, played very well, even though he has got boy band hair. Tommy O'Donnell, again, very good. Cian Healy not starting, and the props that were in there were very good. Marty Moore coming off the bench did well. The two lads in the centre, big shoes to fill with Darcy and O'Driscoll, but Henshaw and Payne are very good players, and it's been pretty seamless. There's some massive positives for Ireland. Positives for England, I'm afraid, is just that there's players to come back from injury. Nobody really impressed. I would think Robshaw and Marlow were my pick of the pack, mainly for what they did in the loose. The only back that really stood out was Alex Good. I think Burrell's days are probably numbered. I think Billy Twelvetrees, despite his one fluffed pass, I think his distribution's far better. He looks to bring the wingers into the game. He's where I'd go going forward at the moment. I think Eastman and Joseph would be far too lightweight, especially with big centres coming up with Scotland and France coming to Twickenham. And obviously Mike Brown will be back in at fullback for Alex Good, who was possibly our only decent back on the pitch. Looking through 1 to 15, I don't think there's an Ireland player that you would pick an England player over from that performance. Conor Murray was exceptional. Johnny Sexton was exceptional. Conor Murray was actually my man of the match if you listen to the commentary on Rugby Radio. Then you went the day before that, obviously, because that was Sunday's match. You had Wales beat France. I've only seen the highlights of the game. It didn't look like there was that many highlights, granted. One exceptional pass with Dan Lydiate setting up Dan Biggar for his first try for Wales. Some exceptional handling. And a good finish by Biggar, actually. He was being chased down. He managed to get into the corner well. And then Bryce Doulin. So I went all Eddie Butler then with my pronunciation. Bryce Doulin scored a try for France. That's about the only high spot for France. I think they're a very poor side at the moment. I don't think this selecting the foreigners is going that well for them. And I think they're about where they're due to be in the Six Nations. I can't see them doing much damage to anybody this year. They've got to go to Twickenham, of course, and England will be looking to really punish them. The third game of the weekend was looking my way at it, was the first game of the weekend, because I've gone backwards because that's how I roll, was Scotland against Italy. Italy winning with the penalty try with the last play of the game, fully deserved. Far better side in the second half. Scotland will be disappointed with their overall performance. It was supposed to be the crowning glory and Vern Cotter's first sort of big victory, and it didn't really work out like that. It started well. It started very well. They raced out to a lead, but it got pulled back in by the Italians, and it was very disappointing for the Scots. I thought very flat in the second half. The big deal made about Peter Horn coming in for Finn Russell's suspension and his links with the backs from Glasgow, because 10 to 15 were all Glasgow backs, and some of them looked like they'd never played together before in their lives. So it was a shame, but Italy, another win for them. They seem to pick up one a year now, and it's great. I think it's great to see Italy growing. It's superb for the championship that we've got another competitive team in there. So yeah, it's all the Six Nations is wide open. I mean, if Wales beat Ireland in the next game, there's 3 sides that are going to be going to win it on points difference. It will be for the 3rd time in 3 years, I believe it's been on points difference, and England will certainly be looking to step up from that 2nd place that they keep getting. They've got the opportunities in their hands now. They just need to beat the last 2 teams handily, work up that points difference, and good to go. So there's the Six Nations covered. Of course, there was League Rugby as well, and no great surprises, was there really, in the Premiership this week? London Welsh took another hammer in, and I think that's become a standard. Everybody else kept on rolling. I mean, Saints up at the top of the league. They just look absolutely unbeatable at the moment. They're losing players to internationals, and they just don't seem to lose games. It's a massive boost to them that their backup players really are doing it. So fair play to them up at the top of the table. They're chasing away. Bath, of course, lost their 3rd in a row. They've slipped to 4th, I think now. 4th, maybe, no, 5th now, isn't it? Because of course Wasps had a bonus point win over Gloucester. Poor Gloucester with only 10 fit backs. They're always going to go into that game with a massive challenge on them. And Leicester returned to form, finally managing to score a try this week. Exeter beating Bath. Saracens only just pipped Newcastle. Newcastle seem to be really improving at the moment, which is obviously great for them. Great for the league as well. Northampton beat Harlequins. Should say that. I did mention Northampton's win. I didn't say who against. In the Pro 12, you had wins for Cardiff. You had a win for Zebra against Newport Gwent Dragons. Bit of a surprise one there. Zebra don't win many. Treviso got absolutely smashed by Connacht. And Munster beat Glasgow. And on the Friday night games, there was a draw, with the Ospreys against Leinster, and Ulster pipped the Scarlets by 5. Of course, if you want a bit of fun with the results, there's the Rugby United predictions blog, goes live every Wednesday. It's myself and David Shute. We're both bloggers, obviously. I do the Rugby United blog, he does his Rugby Old Bloke blog, and we compete against a guest every week to pick scores and score points on it, and it's quite good fun. If you want to check that out, it's blog.rugbyunited.info. So the results from the league this week, I don't think there was any real shocks. Newcastle came closest by giving Saracens a proper good scare. Saracens seem to be in a bit of a rut at the moment. I know they're losing players to internationals, but it's not solely an excuse. 12-point lead in the table now. Northampton have over Saracens. And Saracens are now level on points with Exeter and Wasps. Excuse me, a little burp there. Bath and Leicester are both now 47 points. They're only a point behind. Then you've got a bit of a gap, 4 points down to Sale, who will still harbour ambitions for the top 4. Gloucester then 8 points behind. They're sitting with Harlequins. Neither of them sides will want to be that low next season, certainly. I think this year they might have to accept their fate. And then at the bottom you've got London Irish on 35 points. 28 points. Newcastle on 24 points, and London Welsh still with that 1 try bonus point against Bath. They will be very disappointed with that. The Pro 12 at the moment is Munster out in top, Glasgow second, just a point behind, and they're level on points with Ulster. 3-point gap then to Leinster, and 2 points further back the Ospreys. Connacht 42 points, Scarlet 36, Edinburgh 34, Blues 26, And see Dragons down there in 10th place, losing to Zebra. Zebra bottom of the league. Was it Zebra they lost to? I think it was, wasn't it? And Treviso are in the middle of them too with 18 points. It was reasonably close at the bottom. 14 points, 18 points, 23 points. But then Cardiff Blues only on 26. Some disappointing performances from the Welsh squads this year. Some good signings made by the Dragons as well. Went to watch them last season. They've got a lad, Tyler Morgan. He's a very, very good player. And they were looking to push on this year. They'll be very disappointed they haven't done that. On to some other news from around the world of rugby. I actually go to Rugby League for a couple. There's a video doing the rounds of Rangi Chase of the Salford Reds, which is Rugby League, but don't panic, I haven't gone northern or defected. It's just an insane bit of handling skill. Go to YouTube and look for it. It's also on the BBC Sports site at the moment. There's a round the back pass involved and two of the most insane dummies you'll ever see to set a try up for somebody in the corner. It's amazing handling. I do implore you to go and watch it. It is superb bit of play. And the other news coming out of Rugby League is Jared Hayne, who was playing out in the NRL. He is just signed for the San Francisco 49ers on a pre-contract, I think it is. He's basically been taken to their training camps. He's always a hard-running player. He's very direct. And yeah, I think it's the first sort of major rugby player that's gone across. I know there was is it Hayden Smith, the lad from Saracens? He went over there. I think he might have been at the 49ers as well. I'm not really too sure about that one, but he went out there a couple of years ago, failed and came back. No, shouldn't say failed really. He went out and gave it a shot. Didn't work out. He came back to Saracens. And now Jared's gone out there, and if he picks it up, obviously it's massive money in the NFL. So fair play to him for going out there and trying it, and good luck to him. That's really the only news that I've got from Rugby League, because I'm not a massive Rugby League fan, so I don't know anything else about it. As I say, this will be the first podcast from the Rugbyunited podcast. Not quite sure how it's going to go or how it's going to be received. As I say, the sound quality is going to be appalling. I will go out and buy a new mic if we're getting the listeners to warrant it. Obviously, pay for everything off our own backs with Rugbyunited, so I'm not going to go out and spend a fortune on a decent mic if I'm going to be recording for 3 people. You can put up with this grainy, horrible microphone. To be fair, though, I do have a cold, which isn't going to make it sound any better. I've also got about 3 days worth of stubble, which will keep catching the microphone and making that noise. So I do apologise for that as well. I'm off this weekend with Mr. Trevor Large and his lovely partner Sarah and my wife Anne. We're going to watch Northampton and Gloucester at Kingsholm. It was supposed to be International Rugby Day, which we did last year, and we all visited Moseley. We had a great day out in Moseley. They were great hosts. We had a few beers and some nice hot dogs, and watched a good game of rugby against London Scottish. Met up with Geordie Pasqualin, who at the time was our ambassador for Rugbyunited. This year, we kind of all forgot about it. I'm not going to lie, and we were going to go. I think we were actually going to go London. I think we were thinking about going to watch Blackheath or something like that play, and have a weekend away. Unfortunately, we're all double booked that weekend. I'm on a course with work. Trevor's away, I believe, and it was just like, wow, do we do it this year? Do we do International Rugby Day? I know there was Scott Hornell, who's from Rugby New Zealand. He actually took a big Rugbyunited sign last year for International Rugby game to one of the Pro 12 one of the Super Rugby matches even, which was brilliant. We wanted to do more this year, but like I say, we did forget. And this weekend, we've kind of made a point of saying, well, we're going to go and watch the English champions for National Rugby Day this year. So it's unofficially National Rugby Day for us. If you are doing anything, going to watch a local team or going to watch a ladies team or wheelchair rugby or anything else, let us know on Twitter. You can follow me, as I said earlier on, it's richc_k. You can tweet to @TrevorLarge, which is obviously Trevor Large's account. It's the main Rugbyunited account as well. You can tweet to either of us, let us know what's doing, or just hashtag Rugbyunited, all one word, across the bottom of it. We'll pick it up between us, and we'll find out what you're doing for this weekend's rugby action, with obviously it being a down week for the Six Nations as well. I don't really know what else to say today. Like I said, this is totally unscripted. It's been me, hence why there's been a couple of awkward silences and me not knowing what to say. It's because I've been flicking through BBC Sports Rugby News and ESPN Sports Rugby News, trying to find things to mention. There is a couple of stories on there actually. Venisa's just signed for Saracens, the Italian back rower. Very big, powerful ball carrier. I like him. He's a good player. We've got Pascal Pape. He's failed in his suspension appeal, and he will have his 10-week ban for knee and Jamie Heaslip in the back, which is fair enough, really, isn't it? He broke his back, for one thing. And there's a few players that have been injured and are out of the Six Nations, possibly. You've got Paul James definitely out, the Welsh prop. We've got Morgan Parra's out for France. Cuthbert's been sent back to play for his club side this weekend. He's been released back to play, which might mean that he's not going to be picked for the Wales squad for their next game. Which, to be fair, Liam Williams has, despite having the most smackable face in world rugby, he's been playing well, so he's likely to keep his position. Losing words again. Johnny Sexton has an injury. It's been classed as minor. They're pretty certain that he'll be back to play. There's also some doubts over Sean O'Brien, who looked concussed. He actually fell on the pitch. If you watch the game back, because I was doing the commentary for Rugby Radio, you actually see him fall over at the bottom, and you never like to see that. He looked punch drunk. So yeah, he was a little bit poorly that day. So it looks like concussion. I've not seen that confirmed yet anywhere. Sexton is a minor leg muscle strain, and also I think Jared Payne went off with an injury as well. So that's big positions for Ireland to maybe have to fill in a vital game against Wales. Of course, like I say, if Wales beat Ireland, the championship's way back open. So it's difficult. It could be good fun with the last day of the season, where I shall hopefully be sat in the pub with a good group of friends watching that game. There's some more signings for Worcester. They have signed Cooper Vuna and Sam Lewis. It says here with immediate effect. So there's two very good players. Cooper Vuna, of course, was an Australian international, ex-rugby league player. Sam Lewis is a Welsh flanker with a massive reputation as a good youngster. So they'll be looking to kick Worcester back to the Premiership. Obviously, Bristol, who've signed 90% of the players available for next year, they've just re-signed 8 players for next season. Ben Moses, James Hall, Gareth Moore, Ben Glynn, Jack Tovey, Mark Sorensen, remember him? He's been around for a long, long time. Charlie Amesbury as well, the ex-Quinn, wasn't he? And Jack Wallace. All signed another one-year deal. Andy Robinson, who's the director of rugby down at Bristol, really looking to push for the Premiership as well. They're really going to fight it out with Worcester. They've already signed Tom Van Dale for next season. That's a massive signing. And Will Cliff and Mark Jones from Sale as well. So they're really going for it. The Bristol and Worcester thing, they're both, either side that comes up, if one of them indeed does come up, they're not going to be a one-point side like London Welsh. They're really going to challenge up in the Premiership. They're we hoping to anyway. So yeah, that's definitely one to watch. Magnus Lund has re-signed a new deal with Sale. Andrew Trimble's re-signed a deal with Ulster to stay there another 2 years. And Ireland, one of the bigger news is, if you're a follower of women's rugby, is the Irish have bid to host the Women's World Cup. So obviously there's a chance that we'll get some top quality World Rugby in the 2017 World Cup on our shores in and around Ireland and England, hopefully. Normally there'll be a couple of games held over in England or Wales. I'm not sure if that's going to be pushed forward as part of the stadiums, but it'd be nice. I might have a trip over to Ireland to go and watch some women's rugby. Of course, England are defending champions. They've lost a large part of their team, and they're not doing particularly well in the Six Nations this year, but they are rebuilding. and it's a few years obviously until that tournament, so they'll be hoping to be back amongst the elite for then. It says here that the Kingspan Stadium, or Ravenhill as any rugby fan will call it, is likely to be the finals venue, the final venue. Also, actually, Japan is one that I haven't seen there. Japan have just released a video showing the stadiums for their Rugby World Cup hosting duty. Go and have a look at it. Some of them stadiums are amazing. It's a country that are desperately trying to fall in love with rugby. They've got some big players have been over there or are going over there. The likes of Nick Cummins and big friend of Rugbyunited, Eliota Fuimonu Sapolu. He's been over there as well. He's just left. But yeah, they're really going to be looking to build rugby as a thing in Japan as a big thing. They've always had a love for it, but it's really growing. Fantastic to see. That's what we want to see, is new growth areas for rugby with the likes of Georgia and Russia in the European markets. We'll be really hoping to see some new emerging nations over the next probably 8 to 12 years, to be quite honest with it. But yeah, anyway, 20 minutes into the podcast, so I'm going to leave it there. It has been totally unscripted today. It's literally me putting this out just to see who'll listen. If you have any suggestions on what you want to hear, if you have any suggestions on what you'd like me to do, I do have Skype on my computer, and I believe that this the Spreaker system that I use for the podcast does allow me to record Skype calls. I can also broadcast a live podcast, so there might be a case on a Wednesday where I actually broadcast a live podcast. We could do a question and answer thing on Twitter. We see. And like I say, the more people that listen, the more likely I am to get a better microphone. So it will sound better than this. It does sound rather hollow. I have played with the settings. This is as good a sound as I can get, unfortunately. If you want me to bring anything into this, into the podcast, maybe from the blogs, things like that, I'm quite happy to do it. Any suggestions, really? It's the same as the blog. I have got it'll be the predictions game blog today because it's Wednesday the 4th of March at the moment, should just point out. I've got the predictions game live today, going live today, that blog, and then I'm hoping to do a blog before I go away this weekend, which I've actually got one about Cambodian rugby coming up. Believe it or not, somebody's written to me asking me to put a blog together for them, and I've been meaning to do it for about a fortnight. I haven't found the time yet. That will be going up. I also want to do one because I've put a survey up about what people wanted to see from both the blog and the Facebook group, because we're desperately trying to grow the Facebook group. I want to analyse the results from that and obviously pass it back to everybody, see if people agree with what's said, and then we can put them things into action, grow the blog, grow the Facebook group. I want the podcast to grow. You know, we want to make Rugbyunited a big thing across all forms of social media, so this is just another step in doing that. So if people want to listen to things, then obviously I'm here to ramble on for half an hour every week. There won't be one next week because I'm not here. I think I've already said that. So this is the pilot episode. Episode 1 will be the 18th of March. So that will be it for now then. So don't forget to tweet me if you've listened. Let me know that you enjoyed it. Let me know if you didn't enjoy it. Let me know if you want me to change anything. Let me know if you want me to actually write a script and go off of it. It won't be a full script. It'd be flashcards. But I'm quite happy to do that because it's quite difficult to have everything in my head to speak about, which is why I've been flicking back to the websites, and it's not really worked like that because I do kind of get tongue-tied. But if you wanna pass your feedback on, I can add that in for the next one, and we shall try that out. So I have got the capacity to play music through this as well. If you like to have background music, I don't know if it would take away from what was being said. I don't know if it would enhance anything, but I'm quite aware that this microphone does pick up. It's a headset mic. It does pick up breathing. So if there is a couple of seconds of silence, it sounds like a good old-fashioned 1980s prank call, or like Darth Vader's the guest on the blog, you know, something like that. So yeah, that's it really. I'm going to let you all go now. Get on with your days. been about 25 minutes. I'm sure that's a good enough time to leave it. So don't forget to follow me on Twitter. It's richc_k, or join the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/Rugbyunited. Goodbye.